Hello everybody, this is Rainer Wendt speaking from masVenta Business GmbH. And we are a German company, we are hosting the European Business Analysis Day, and today we are happy to welcome Adrian Reed from the UK, who will be a speaker on the European Business Analysis Day. Welcome Adrian.
Well, thank you for having me, Rainer. Really excited to be part of the conference.
Yes, and so we are. So Adrian is quite famous, I would say. So I've seen you in Los Angeles, I've seen you in Orlando speaking in America, and you are kind of popular in the business analysis scene. And I love your blog. I'm a frequent reader of your blog because this is a valuable part in the internet, I would say.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad somebody reads it, Rainer. So.
Yeah, I should more actively read it and comment and come into discussions with you, but sometimes I'm a bit lazy to write comments, but I like the discussions I find there. So yeah, Adrian, so give us a bit more about your background. What are you doing? You have a company, Black Matrix Solutions. Is this right in the UK?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I guess probably the most important thing to say about myself is I'm a really enthusiastic business analyst. I really believe in the value that business analysis brings to companies. I'm particularly enthusiastic about BAs being involved early in the project lifecycle because I believe if as BAs we have the opportunity to be involved pre-project, so often we can actually help shape the project in a way that means it really delivers value. So in my day job, I'm principal consultant at Blackmetric. So my day job is a mixture of hands-on business analysis, sometimes helping organizations set up BA teams, and also the delivery of training. I've also been, I was on the board of IIBA UK chapter as a volunteer for a number of years. I only stepped down because I wanted to do some studying in my spare time and I couldn't do both. But I still, I'm a real advocate of IIBA internationally and of course my local chapter as well. I think that it's a very valuable organization.
Yeah, yeah. So that's quite that's a common denominator between the two of us. Where I'm a president of the German chapter. You have been a president of the UK chapter, and that's probably the opportunity why we know each other. We have met on the conferences. But what you said about the early involvement of business analysts in projects, this is something we share as well. Because just yesterday I had a speech in the PMI Cologne chapter, and I was talking about portfolio management. And portfolio management is something where you have to decide whether you invest in a project or not. Whether you can build a value proposition or a business case which is suitable, which the people can believe in, and with which they will invest in the project. And therefore, I think business analysis is much more than requirements engineering, which is more a fulfillment of what people want to have. It is more a very critical view, a view which is probably coming with system thinking to find out whether a solution is suitable or whether a solution is good at all. Maybe sometimes it's better to do nothing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, just to take one definition from BABOK, I think BABOK defines a requirement as a usable representation of a need.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that as BAs we really need to remember is, okay, yes, we might be dealing with requirements, but requirements fulfill needs, right? And actually needs have to enable value to be created or co-created. And if we're involved early, we can actually I mean, of course, requirements are still important, and we shouldn't forget that. But actually, if we're able to be involved early, we can make sure that we're collecting requirements about the right thing. And that's one area where I think I've found techniques from the world of systems thinking can really help, because they can help us get to the root causes of problems. So we don't, sort of just pursue a silver bullet solution. We actually look at the whole situation a bit more systemically.
Yes. So how does this fit into the context which we have nowadays? I mean, the motto of the conference is the digital change. Everything remains different. This is a play on words, but it probably shows how the situation is, because we are in a big move. There are paradigm changes everywhere. People get digital. People don't go in the cities to go shopping. They just shop online, and everything can be done through the internet. So how does this quite traditional discipline of system thinking? I know it since years. It was around already in the 90s. How does this traditional discipline system thinking fits into this new world?
Yeah, I mean, again, great question, and you are absolutely, of course, correct in what you're saying, Rainer, in that systems thinking isn't new. I mean, there are branches of systems thinking going way back to the sort of 40s and 50s, and I think it's important to start by saying systems thinking isn't just one thing. There are different traditions of systems thinking, but one thing that they have in common is they take a situation of interest, typically where there's some sort of problem, and as practitioners we can imagine the situation as if it were a system, and that enables us to explore interconnections between components. So that might sound a bit abstract. So I mean, a bit of a random example, but if you imagine if you went into your office tomorrow and someone had disassembled your laser printer, and all of the components were spread across the office, they might be the best possible components. You might have the best toner in the world. You might have the best drum unit in the world, the best paper tray in the world. But if they're not connected in the right way, what you can't do is you don't have that emergent property of printing. And I think so often in our organizations, what we end up doing is focusing on the components. We say, well, we want this IT system to work really well, or we want this process to work really well. Whereas actually, if they don't all work in collaboration, then we don't actually get the outcomes that we want, or we end up moving problems from one department to another department. And of course, if you lay on in a typical organization, you've not just got the sort of hard facts of the organization, you've also got things like culture and politics, and you've got people may have different views of purpose. So people may have a different view of what a department or an IT system or a process is for. And systems thinking is a way of taking all of those perspectives together, looking at root causes, purpose, and co-creating, creating a change which is hopefully valuable for as many people as possible. And there's a whole bunch of techniques which we can kind of pull out as BAs and use alongside our regular work.
Yes, but to be honest, this sounds quite complex. While a requirements engineer, he has a quite let's say narrow scope. You can deal with the solution requirements, and that's it. But now you are talking about systems which consist of people, of processes, of cultural aspects. And this is a hard job for the BA. And is this something where you can just use systems thinking, and then he or she has a good tool set to work with?
Yeah, and I think again you raised another really good point, Rainer, which is we as BAs we don't necessarily have to use the entire breadth of systems thinking. So I mean, one technique that I personally use a lot is a technique known as a multiple cause diagram. And a multiple cause diagram is one that I'll cover in the workshop. And if you've ever used say a fishbone diagram, like an Ishikawa diagram, it's very, very similar, but it allows you to explore situations that are a little bit more messy. And it's the kind of it's an isolated technique which you can take from the world of systems thinking, and it can help us work with our stakeholders to think more deeply about root causes, and you can use it along with traditional techniques like 5 whys to really think about root causes so that we're solving them. So you're right in what you're saying in that there's a lot written about systems thinking, and if as BAs we try to do all of it, it would probably be too much. But there are particular tools we can apply to different contexts that can really help us along.
Yes, so that sounds interesting. So you are going to give a half-day workshop on the BA day. It's May 16, isn't it? So May 16 is the workshop day, May 17 is the conference day. They are talking about leadership from the middle, which is as well very interesting. But for the moment, let's focus on the workshop. I've put the page on the screen. So meaning if the people participate in the workshop, what are the getaways? What do they really take with them afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've crammed as much as I can into the workshop, and people who come along will get a printed manual. So there'll be techniques that we'll cover in detail in the session, and those that we can't, they'll have some written material to take away. But really, what I've done is I've taken a series of like actionable tools and techniques from the world of systems thinking that have application in business analysis. And the half-day workshop is an opportunity for me to share those techniques, but also for those who attend to actually have a chance to sort of practice them. So there'll be sort of a mini scenario in the session. So like the multiple cause diagram that we talked about, there'll be a chance not just for me to sort of like explain it and point at some slides. It'll be a case of explaining it, but then let's actually play with it as a group, and let's discuss when it will be useful and when you'll use it. So we'll be covering things like multiple cause diagrams, causal loops. We'll be touching on a technique of the rich picture. Time permitting, we might get into systems maps and others. But the key thing is, in the short time in this video, I wouldn't be able to explain all of these, but there'll be the opportunity for us to not just talk about these techniques, but also talk about how and where they're relevant in business analysis.
Can I get a version of this printed manual as well? Just if I drop in for a couple of minutes, because I don't have time to participate in the whole conference. So we have, yeah. So we have.
Rainer, you're very welcome. You're very welcome to one, of course.
Yeah, we have. So we've decided to structure the workshops in 3 tracks, and you would cover a half day, meaning approximately 4 hours, and in the afternoon there will be another workshop in your track, which is about SAFe, about the scaled agile framework, and we have workshops about design thinking and things like that. And the good thing is the people they don't need to book a track unless they have to specify it when they book on the webpage, when they get the ticket for the BA day. But if they want, they can jump from track 1 to track 2 or track 3, so they are free to jump in the sessions. Hopefully this will not be too disturbing, but I want to give the people, the visitors, the participants, a lot of flexibility. And all the things are related. I mean, if I look at design thinking, system thinking, and now we have a third one. I don't know whether you have seen it already, from a German company, from Ose, which is team thinking. So.
Oh wow! No, seen that.
Maybe this can become interesting for you as well. So you have the opportunity to go into this session after you have held your session. So
absolutely.
And so we have brought together a lot of things on the BA day, and I think it will become very interesting. And of course, the keynotes. Let me mention the keynotes shortly. So we have Professor Christoph Meinl. Yeah, it's a very famous guy. He is actually the managing director, the CEO of the HPI Institute, of the Hasso-Plattner Institute, which is a very famous university in Potsdam. And we have a closing keynote, and I think this is very interesting. As well for the women on the conference, because it's the Spanish fashion company Desigual. Desigual is quite famous as well. So now what I'm very curious about is, what do people like this Fernando Marquez from Desigual, what does he take away from sessions you are giving or other people are giving? How can system thinking influence agile processes? Are there touch points?
Oh, that's a very good question, and we could probably talk about that for the rest of the day, Rainer. But the short answer is yes. So, I mean, for example, one of the key, or a key concept within systems thinking is the idea of feedback. Okay, but often in our world as just regular employees of companies, we think of feedback as like the qualitative feedback you get at your appraisal or year end or whatever. But in systems feedback, I always imagine it like a signal flowing through a circuit, and the system can be sort of designed to respond to that feedback. So, for example, we might thinking about requirements. If we were in a call center or whatever, there might be a requirement to if the queue length exceeds 30 minutes, or 30 seconds, that's telling us that there's unexpected demands that might trigger something happening. Okay, but that idea of feedback sits really well with agile methods, because often what you're doing in agile is you're biting off a very small piece of work or of potential value, and what you're doing is you've got that hypothesis of value and you're testing it, and you're seeing actual people respond to that value or that potential value, and then you're adapting. And the other similarity between agile and systems thinking is, if we imagine our organization as if it were a system, okay? If we imagine that, well, actually that implies a boundary between the system and the outside world. Okay, and the stuff changing in that outside world probably faster than ever in history. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but we live in interesting and changing times, and the ability to respond to that is really important. I think it's probably fair to say it's the companies that can respond most accurately and most quickly to the environment that are going to survive and thrive, and that sits very well with agile methods. But equally, it's sort of intrinsic in systems thinking as well, about keeping organizations viable, continuing to build in feedback to respond, and to sort of continue to accept that you don't always know what the solution is. You have to test it. You have a hypothesis that you test.
Quick feedback. That you really involve the end users, involve the users, involve the customers, and maybe this is as well a parallel thing between or a thing which should be, let's say, aimed that systems shouldn't be too complex. The smaller systems are, the better you can control them and understand them, and this is exactly what agility is about. In agility, the things are kept small. They are shown in small pieces to the customers, and then the customers can give feedback, and so the risks which comes with complexity can be kept somehow lower, as if we would deal with very complex systems.
Absolutely, and again, that sort of plays into, as you were saying that, Rainer, I was thinking sometimes it's about actually deliberately breaking things into components and understanding and working on a component, but knowing you're just working on a component that is going to be part of a bigger, you're working on a slice in a very agile way, but knowing that slice is connected to something else, connected to a bigger whole type of thing.
Does system thinking help agile people not to have this tunnel view, to look just on their piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of people in my network are business analysts, and I think the majority of business analysts I know who are working on agile projects tend to think holistically anyway. I think that's one thing that BAs bring to agile, but systems thinking reinforces that, and it provides other tools and perspectives for making sure that I think there's always that risk that if we don't think systemically, holistically, or whatever, that we end up delivering a very fine technical solution that doesn't fit with the processes. You've got or you've got a very good sales system now. You can sell really quickly, but your factory can't produce to the rate that you've now sold, type of thing. So it encourages that sort of joined up thinking as well.
Yeah, it's a really a broader view. Systems thinking takes into consideration the whole. So the whole is bigger than its parts. That's
Exactly.
something which comes to
Exactly.
yeah. This is a good closing word, isn't it? So yeah, in order not to exceed the time too much, I'm really looking forward to have you on in Frankfurt both days. And please don't plan any meetings on the evening of May 16, because we have a nice entertainment there. We have a smooth jazz band with a piano and a double bass and a singer, and we have a very good atmosphere. Hopefully the weather is with us and we can do it outside on the terrace of the bar. On the bar and the terrace of the hotel. And yes, many people I've heard from the people who are speaking, who are visiting us from Russia, from America, from Croatia, from Latvia. They are coming to the BA Day, and it will be a great meeting again. So thank you very much, Adrian, and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, Rainer, and see you in Frankfurt.
See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.